Cited Right Basics, Part 5. Principle 1, Usability, Continued. The right to cite. In the last video, we already saw that most of the sources we want to use will probably be protected by copyright law, and that we need a certain permission to be able to cite those materials. And the right to citation is such a permission. And when we talk about citing in the sense the copyright does, it's more than just putting quotation marks around a quotation and giving a reference. There are certain conditions we have to fulfill. And we will have a look at these conditions, and we can remember them quite easily if we use the PEMUC scheme. The PEMUC scheme helps us to remember the 5 conditions we have to fulfill in order to use a citation by citation law. The P stands for purpose, which means there has to be a purpose of citation. For example, we want to use this source because we have to analyze something, or because we want to prove a point, or something like this. So there needs to be a purpose, and we have to explain this purpose. It's not enough that there is a purpose that a fairly smart person would see, but we actually have to explain it. This doesn't mean we have to give half a page of explanation. It just has to be clear to the reader why we use this citation. The M stands for minimum, which means we should only use as much as absolutely necessary. So we use as much as necessary, but as little as possible. The U stands for unchanged. If we use a citation according to citation law, we cannot change it. And here some of you might think, well, if I paraphrase something, I use my own words, I do change something. So is this not allowed, or what's going on here? And here we come to a very important point. The copyright law protects a work and not an idea. This also means we only have to stick to the right to citation if we quote, which means if we cite directly, use the words of the original author. Then we are not allowed to change it. But if we cite indirectly, if we paraphrase, then we can use any work we want as long as it has been published. So in this case, if we paraphrase, we don't need this right, this citation right, in order to get permission to cite it. Nevertheless, even if we cite indirectly, it makes sense to use the PEMUC scheme to check whether it's sensible to use this citation, because in this case, the unchanged condition, we just apply this to the meaning of this citation, which of course also if we cite indirectly, we are not allowed to change the meaning. So in any case, no matter whether you cite directly or indirectly, the PEMUC scheme is a really good way of making sure you use your citation in a good way, and that it's sensible to use a citation in this place. And the last letter here is the C, and this stands for credit. So if we use someone else's work, we have to give credit, we have to give a reference. Apart from the right of citation, there are other kind of permissions, other ways we can use someone else's work. And for this, we have a checklist for you. We call this checklist, May I Cite This Work? And here you have the 3 different cases in which you can use another person's work. May I cite this work? Yes, if the right to citation can be applied, or if the work is in the public domain, or if you have permission from the copyright holder. So if we start with the left column, that's the thing we just did with the PEMUC scheme. You can use another person's work if you use a right to citation, which means there has to be a purpose, and you have to explain this purpose. The length of the citation needs to be appropriate, and you have to mark and reference the citation clearly. And if these conditions are given, then you may cite this work. If instead you use a work which is in the public domain, it might be in the public domain because the work doesn't meet the necessary level of creativity or originality. So it has never been protected by copyright law, or if the copyright protection has already expired, or if the work has been marked as public domain. And in these cases, again, you mark the work properly and give a reference. The third case is if you have a permission from the copyright holder, which can either be given by a license. You also have licenses, for example, like the Creative Commons licenses, which already say that you're allowed to do certain things with this work, and you then just have to stick to the terms of the license agreement, and then you can use it. Or if you have a permission, so you can always ask the copyright holder for permission. And in many cases, this is the author, but in many other cases, this might also be the publisher. And in any case, here, as with any other case, you have to mark the reference and give a proper reference. So basically, you have these three different cases which make a work citable. The right to citation, if it's in the public domain, or if you have a permission.